Hello. Did you know that at one point in the early 1980s, the #1 selling video recorder in the UK was Beta, not VHS. It was a Sanyo VTC5000. They sold in absolutely vast numbers. This one was owned by a chap who was trying to repair it, and he's changed lots and lots of capacitors, but still had a fault. So let's investigate what that fault is and see if we can repair this machine. I think I have a scrap machine, so if I have to do some entire panel swapping, I'm not going to be too proud to just do that. Right, let's get stuck in. Okay, some of the capacitors changed include, I think, some of the power supply ones. That's good because they do cause problems. We see we're missing, there's supposed to be a little rubber strip there. Hopefully I might have a spare one of those I can raid off another machine. Cosmetically, it's reasonably tidy. Let's plug it in and see what we get. As ever, I'll be connecting it to my isolation transformer for safety. Okay, let's begin by just seeing if we get a nice clock display. Right, that's good. It's not flickering, which can happen. Eject is good. I'm going to start by just seeing if we have mechanical functions. I believe it's had a new reel idler and belts fitted, so let's just see if it'll do fast forward and rewind first. No, that was a fail. Let's show you what happened. It's trying to operate the reel idler and it's obviously failing, and a bit of a failing of this model is if it can't... Oops, it suddenly started. It suddenly started. Well, it might just be that it's been sat around for a long time. The failing I was mentioning is that if one of these machines can't do fast forward or rewind, it will suddenly go into lace up mode, which is the last thing you need in a machine whose reel idler is not working. Okay, that seems quite reasonable now. So let's see what happens if we select play. Noisy, as they always are. I can hear a squeak, which typically means that some of the guides need cleaning. Picture search. Play. Reverse picture search. And stop. That all seems okay. The 5000 model does not have, as the 5150 does not have reverse picture search. The other thing about the 5000 model is that freeze frame is only in black and white. Okay, let's hook this up to a monitor and see what we get. And what do we see? It's a slightly odd picture, isn't it? You might be saying it's running at the wrong speed. Perhaps would cause that sort of rolling. Underneath whatever the problem is, there's looks like a reasonably good colour picture. Right, one of the things we try, of course, in these sort of situations is freeze frame and picture search. So freeze frame, as I mentioned, is only in black and white. And well, what can we say is working? Drum capstan is all working properly. There's no problem with that because the picture is nice and vertical. There's no problem with that. Does it mean that we just have a capstan servo fault? I'm not sure. Let's try picture search. Right, I'm trying to remember if the noise bars are supposed to stay stationary on the VTC5000. I think they are. So that's pointing towards capstan problem. Reverse picture search. And freeze frame. It's interesting. I'm not sure what to make of it. There's something else. There's streaking from the highlights there. Let me zoom you in on that. Can you see these black tails on those belts? That can be either due to tape damage or head wear. So we may have defective heads. Quite rare on the VTC5000. They were very good on the heads, but you can't rule it out. Interesting. Is it capstan related, servo related, heads, or tape path? I actually don't know. Interesting. So one thing I suppose I could do is have a look at the RF envelope from the heads. But I think it's just going to be a mess. I'm not sure that'll tell us anything. Let's take a look inside, see what we can see. So there should be a little rubber strip across that for cosmetic reasons, but it's only really held on by sort of sticky pads, and they do tend to fall off. Right, we'll take this panel, this shield off, this earthing cover. You can see the tape path a little better then. Okay, I'll get you set up looking down on the unit. Okay, we'll just put this tape in again, the one with no recording, and just look at the tape path. There's something terribly wrong with that, the way that's laced up. Okay, why in heaven's name is it like that? So I'm just going to switch the power off, and then we can look carefully at what's going on here. Well, some of it's going on underneath this cover, so I'm just temporarily going to put in a different tape which doesn't have a front lid. In fact, it's a Betacam tape, but it won't matter for our demonstration. Now switch power off, and there's clearly something terribly wrong because the tape is missing the arrays head and these guides. The tape should be around this guide here, and it's completely missed it. So there is some loading error. That would give terrible results like that. So the tape should be going past the end sensor, the arrays head, the first guide, the guide here, and then past these rollers. So no wonder the picture is dreadful. And the reason for that would appear to be that this was sticking in the wrong place. That should have been retracting to this location. So it's catching on something. This guide is catching on something. Interesting. Well, it's different, but not really what you call better. Let's try the freeze frame now. That's got a massive alignment error. I wonder if someone's been twiddling. You see these multiple lines across here? They mean that it's scanning, it's completely missing the tracking it's supposed to be on and is scanning other tracks. So it might be that someone has been twiddling the tape guides trying to improve the picture, which could leave us with a bit of an alignment error. Well, let's take a look at the tape guides. The thing is about Beta, it's a little bit more complicated than VHS in this respect, because with VHS the input and exit guides for the head drum are not deeply related to the guides for the audio and control head, but on Beta the guide adjustment here is also adjustment for the audio head. On Beta, if you start adjusting the this guide here, which you think is just to do with the head, on the exit side of the head, you will also be disturbing the height of the tape as it goes through the audio control block here. So these three all interact, and so someone who's just tape guide twiddling will put the audio control head out as well. So let's look at this. There's the supply spool. The tape goes past the erase block here, through several tape guide adjustments, past the video head, which got a long wrap around here, and then on the exit side you have a guide and then guides for the audio control head, and then the tape goes through the pinch roller and capstan, which of course actually pulls the tape through, and then through all these guides. And if you get squealing, this plastic guide in particular is one. This plastic guide in particular is one that can cause tape squealing here. But all these metal and plastic stationary guides need cleaning if you get squealing problems on Beta, on this model anyway. So, do I think that somebody's been twiddling here? The error would be so huge it should be visible to the eye. I'm not seeing a problem on the exit side, because if this was massively misadjusted, you'd see tape curling. It would either be pushed down onto the bottom of the head drum, or it would be clear away from the head drum. So it looks to me like this side is correctly aligned. And this is the input side here. Is that massively out? I don't know. Let me just unlace and have a look at where the tape sits relative to the head block here. Is it sitting on the groove as it should be? Let me do an unlace and look. Was the tape properly sitting on this part of the head drum? Right against that ridge. Let's lace it up and have a look. It should sit right on that ridge all the way through to the end here. It looks right. I'm going to switch the power off and just feel whether the tape is sat on that ridge. Stop the head. Yes, it is. Tape is sat on that ridge. Because with an error as big as this, you'd expect to see the tape misshapen along the tape path. And this side, yes, you can see there's the head drum ridge there, and the tape is sat on it. So how could we have such a massive alignment fault and yet the tape looks properly placed? I really don't know. I'm going to try another tape, I think. Popped in another tape from another machine. Very similar. It's screaming massive tape path error. But with one as bad as that, you'd expect to see it. Well, I am somewhat confused. But in the interests of trying to glean some more information from the fault, I'm going to do a short test recording of colour bars from a time-based corrector. And if that records tolerably well, then we glean a little bit of information. Okay, pause, play. Nice feature on this machine, you don't have to go into stop to come out of record. You can stay laced up and play that. And it's a mess. So it can't even play back its own recordings properly. There's a definite tape path problem, but not very visible. There's a massive amount of missing RF envelope there. If we had just an alignment error, then it should be able to play back its recordings reasonably well. but there's more to it than that. I've been looking around the head drum in case somebody's been fiddling. For example, if the whole head drum had been out, then not reassembled properly, so it wasn't sat down properly on the deck, that could potentially cause this sort of error. But then I would have expected to see things look a bit more disturbed. Like, look, you know, everything looks factory. It doesn't look like anyone's taken the drum apart. No, I don't think this drum has been out. Not the lower drum. You know, it's not a fault that these machines are known for, and they are mechanically robust machines. So what could it be? Is the whole loading ring in the wrong place? Well, again, you'd see it not sitting on the tape head drum shoulders properly. If the tape was massively out of alignment due to a loading ring being in the wrong place, and it's just not something these machines are known for. Let's see if we can see anything by making it work without a tape in it, which you do by putting your fingers on these switches here. Right, it thinks it has a tape in it. Press play. Right, switch power off and just have a look. We're not seeing any telltale signs of the tape path being massively misaligned. Okay, I've just removed this circlip here and put some oil down there and wiggled the unit up and down. I don't want to take the whole assembly off because there's lots of springs connected to the bottom. Don't wish to get into an argument with that. So I've lifted it up and down quite a few times with the oil in place so that it can run down the shaft, and hopefully that will be the last time we see this back tension arm sticking in the wrong place. Right, let's see how that goes. I'm still not happy with this arm here. It's able to catch here, and that shouldn't be. So I'm going to compare that to another machine and see what the alignment is of this arm relative to the mount here for the array's head and first guide, because it just doesn't feel right. That might be telling us something. Right, somewhat frustratingly, I lost a little bit of footage, so I'm going to have to show you what I found. On a known good machine here, you can see this arm, and it's not colliding with the post here. And the reason is because this arm here is straight. So our problem was, on the machine we're working on, this metal arm here, which is quite a thin metal here actually, was bent downwards by enough that this guide was two things. One, not vertical, so it was that way, and that was messing up the tape path. And two, was colliding with the mount for the array's head and that first guide. So it was a simple case of straighten this metal arm so that it clears that guide, and furthermore it's vertical, so it's parallel with the tape guide and the heads and everything, and the array's head and everything else. So when that was straight up and the arm was straight, then we were able to get the machine to play a tape without the massive tape alignment error. But we still had problems in that the capstan servos all over the place. So now we'll jump into having a look at playing a tape on the machine where this guide has been straightened out, and we're just looking at tape speed problems. Right, I've just made a test recording on the machine with now the tape path seemingly right. Let's see if we get no capstan lock on that. and indeed no capstan lock, and what may or may not be head switching point going through the picture, maybe? Not sure. But anyway, no capstan lock, so that's where we need to put our efforts. Playing back the tape we recorded on this machine plays back with servo faults on a known good machine. So that kind of eliminates some silly things like audio control head connections, because you wouldn't get those sort of faults. So I am now blaming the capstan, the servo board SV1. I mean, the audio control head connects directly to that anyway. You can see by the wiring loom that goes straight through to here. So let's see if we can look at that board. Oh, it's all just quite easy to take out, I think. Well, I said I'm not too proud to just swap a panel out, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll see if we have one of these in a scrap machine and try it. Well, easy to change. You wouldn't go too deep into fault finding that if you have a replacement. Oh, what's been going on here? There's a bit of history on this board, isn't there? I don't know what to make of that, but I'm definitely swapping that panel out. Okay, so this is our outgoing one with these links. I don't know what they're doing. And this is what we're going to be fitting. This connector here, I think, was plugged in upside down on the previous board, because the connector is a bit broken. Part of it snapped off and would allow this connector to fit upside down. Not sure where that connector goes. That might be to the tracking control. And a note about the tracking control: they tend to wear a little bit and drift, and it's very often necessary to adjust the sub-track there by just a little to get the tracking dead center again. Okay, let's see if that's got us anywhere. Yes, I think our capstan lock is fixed. And remember I said in picture search, it's supposed to lock, I thought it was, 4 mistracking lines in forward, and I think, is it 3 in reverse? Different amount, but it's supposed to have locked mistracking lines, which it does now. So it's fundamentally working, but we are seeing black tails from highlights. That's looking a lot like headwear. And the tracking's very fussy, just slightly off center and we lose pretty much all picture. So I'm thinking headwear. Yeah, I'm still seeing it occasionally on this tape as well. Yes, some of the bright highlights are trailing on this one as well. So I think we have headwear problems. So though the picture's far better on this tape and is almost in the level of acceptable, by a little bit of noise at the very bottom, I'm still seeing occasional highlights producing black tails, so I am thinking that the heads are less than good. I think we're going to have to change the head disc, and maybe I have a better one in the scrap machine which I took the servo panel from. So this is looking down on the head drum assembly. So on these machines they have a disc, a head disc. So you have a static upper and lower drum and a disc in the middle. which doesn't require any eccentricity alignment in the way that it does on some Sony models and indeed on Sony Betacams. So I just need to take the upper drum off and then remove the disc. I haven't done that in about 25 years, so it's going to be a learning experience to remind myself how to do that. Okay, so there you have the upper part of the rotary transformer, and here we have the heads and their rotary transformer. Since we've got such good access to the head tips at the moment, I'll show you those under a microscope. You can see the two heads, and they both look reasonably clean. So doing the same process here on our donor machine. Somewhat confusingly here, the red windings don't go to the one with the red dot. But they do both go to the one with the yellow wire. So that's, I think, what we're looking for. That yellow wire is the marker for the one with the red windings. Transformer off. Oops, seems like I may not have desoldered quite what I thought it desoldered. There we go. I'll just inspect that head drum before I start fitting it to the other machine. And a quick check there to see that the head is in good order. There's a tiny bit of contamination on it, could use a quick clean. And that head is also in perfect order. So I'm happy to install those heads into our target machine. Okay, there's our head disc, and remember the yellow wire is on our right hand side, which is going to connect to the red wire of the rotary transformer. But I'm going to rotate it a little bit because I just don't want to run the heads past this edge here. Right, I can now fit the head disc screws. And fit the transformer with the red windings on this side with the yellow wire. Right, I'll fit the bracket before I do the soldering. So I just need to resolder the transformer windings on. So they're properly soldered on. And it's time to reassemble the upper drum. I'm having a bit of trouble with clearance between the head disc and the upper drum. Is that why I found a small shim underneath this bracket earlier? I found a small piece of plastic material in here, which presumably acting as a shim there. So it seems that this doesn't quite have the clearance it needs with this head disc. It feels like we're going to have to add some more shims to this to try to get the head right, the upper drum height correct. Okay, I've got it back together with no scraping of that, so those shims were required, and the service manual mentions indeed having shims in that position. Let's put in this earthing arrangement, but there is this extraneous wire here. I don't know why that's been added. I guess I'll refit it. Right. It's all back in one piece, and the head is able to spin without any scraping noises, so we're ready to test it. Okay, so I have the replacement heads fitted. Of course, we don't know if they're any good either, and they're spinning freely. So let's try playing a tape. I've chosen a different tape, which I think might be slightly better than some of the other ones. What do we have? Lots of dropouts. Lots and lots of dropouts. But I think it's playing okay. Tape's in rough condition. Awful lot of dropouts. Well, I'll move on a little bit, find a better bit of tape maybe. But underneath the dropouts, the picture looks fairly clean. So, yes, it does actually. Right, there is a procedure for adjusting the dropout compensator. I don't know where it is. I think it might be in here somewhere. But you're supposed to use a special tape, but I do like the instructions from Sanyo. Let's have a look at the service manual. Alignment procedure using their special tape, or alignment procedure if you don't have the tape. Twiddle the control till it looks better. I like you, Sanyo. So we need to adjust VR1501 wherever that is. It might be in the head amplifier. Marked above there, if you can just see it stamped on the metal, DOC, Dropout Compensator. Don't you just love Sanyo equipment? I mean, nothing was built quite like Sanyo. I love Sanyo equipment. I'm going to need a very small screwdriver to reach that control at the bottom. So let's set that up playing a tape. So if I back that off anti-clockwise, so fully adjusted left, and you can see dropouts, white flashes on it. Oh, that's a head clog, but ignore that for a minute. And then I adjust this control slightly clockwise until the dropouts disappear. And if you turn it too far, the picture just disappears. Okay. I'm not seeing any dropouts at the moment, so that appears to be properly set up. I mean, that is actually good. Where you see a dropout now is just a tiny white fleck before the rest of the line gets replaced by the dropout compensator. That's working properly. That is actually a good picture. I like that a lot. Right, let's just do a test recording on it too. Okay, I'll let that do a test recording for a couple of minutes and come back and look at it shortly. Let's see what that looks like. Lovely thing about the way you can just go from record to play without going via stop. Nothing wrong with that. Let's try the tracking. That's one extremity and that's the other. So you could center that a tiny bit using the sub-tracking control there, and that's freeze frame. Only black and white, but a nice clean freeze frame. Let's clean up these static guides on the loading ring, and the one that causes squealing most, I think, is the plastic one. This applies also to other Sanyo Beta machines. In fact, I've found it happens most on the VTC NX100, I think, one of the front loading models. That may seem like not much came off there. It is enough to cause the tape to squeal. We'll also do the guide that causes so much trouble on this particular machine. Right, let's do some reassembly. So you mustn't overdo these screws. They only sort of self-tap their way into plastic, and I've seen several machines where these get stripped out. And what happens to this pile of junk that's come off it? Well, I don't waste anything. I'll reassemble all this and label it up with what's good and what's bad about it and put this in my storeroom. Well, I'm very pleased with the way that's come out. It's a good working machine now. I'm not sure I need another Sanyo VTC5000, so it's possible I may sell this one. Let me know if you'd be interested. I'll do plenty more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now.